Good morning. Thank you so much for joining me on today's edition of Business Morning. It's the last edition for the week, but it is the third edition for the month of February. I'm Harriet Agbinyi. It's a pleasure to have you join me on the program this morning. So quite a lot that we're taking a look at on the program. Of course, we'll give you a look at some of the top stories for this hour as well from business and of course from the newsroom. We've got Nyota Igbe, my colleague, joining me in just a bit to take a look at that, and we'll also review how the markets shaped up yesterday, talking about the Nigerian Stock Exchange, and of course we'll review numbers from the fixed income segment of the market, taking a look at bonds, treasury bills, and of course interbank money market. Then we'll talk about what's going on in the energy market, review some of the oil and gas stocks we track on the program, and talk to Dolapo Oni, who will also review oil and gas news for the week and what most likely will be shaping up next week. And we'll talk about some of the latest policies and some of the stories that are actually trending on social media and dominating conversations, one-on-one conversations. We're talking about the federal government's new luxury tax policy. I'll be joined on the program by the former president, Chartered Institute of Taxation of Nigeria, and he's also a former president, Association of Professional Bodies. And then much later, we'll take a look at how the aviation financing really is a burning issue, especially as the federal government ramps up plans to temporarily shut down the Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport to do some major refurbishing. So we'll take a look at all of that on the program. So let's kick off with, of course, some of the top stories. Now, barring any last-minute change, the federal government is expected to begin roadshows in London and the United States today before the proposed issue of Nigeria's first Eurobond in over 3 years. Nigeria last tapped the Eurobonds market in July 2013 and has $1.5 billion of Eurobonds outstanding. Now, according to analysts, yields on Nigeria's $500 million bond due in July 2023 is almost at 7% as at Thursday, February 2nd. Now, the Minister of Finance, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun, and the Central Bank of Nigeria's Deputy Governor, Sarah Alade, will lead the meetings with investors. International ratings agency, in the meantime, that Standard & Poor's has given the Buhari administration's Eurobond proposed issue a B rating. So for 2017, there's a lot of analyst reports and expectation, but this latest one from financial derivatives company during a session at the Lagos Business School highlighted some of the key global trends that will shape most economies, whether developing or emerging economies, in 2017. And some of those listed include rising neo-nationalism and protectionist sentiments, new growth momentum in advanced economies, emerging markets, economic recovery, commodity market recovery, greater global connection, as well as greater financial market uncertainty. That's already largely playing out, even though it's still early days yet. But for most of 2017, these are the likely trends that will shape the decisions reached by most economies, whether developed, developing, or emerging. Also, the Nigeria National Petroleum Corporation has opened the bids of over 100 local and international oil trading firms that had earlier indicated interest to serve as off-takers for 800,000 barrels of the country's daily crude oil this year. Some known and unknown names, including Northwest Petroleum, Forte Oil, Varo Energy Marketing AG, and Oriental Energy Resources Limited, were among companies that submitted their names. So what else do we have on track? As I said, today is the last trading day for the week. So coming into next week, we're expecting more companies to turn in their full year corporate earnings to the Nigerian Stock Exchange. That has already started happening, but most of the big names are yet to turn in, although we have some big names who are early birds who have turned in their results. But coming into next week, we expect to see a rash, not a trickle, of corporate earnings hitting the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Also, it seems as if Jai's Bank is going to join the league of big boys. Jai's Bank is listed on the Nasdaq OTC Securities Exchange, but is going to list on the Nigerian Stock Exchange come next week. FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange will be signing a memorandum of understanding with S&P Dow Jones Indices. That also is coming up next week, and the Securities and Exchange Commission will be holding a seminar on the budget 2017 in Lagos, the nation's Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, and the National Bureau of Statistics is expected to release Q4 2016 port activities report. Welcome back. You're watching Business Morning on Channels Television. Remember, you can be part of conversations that we have here on the show and online, talking about some of the developing stories and some others that, of course, will be driving key trends in 2017 as well. So let's also just quickly remind you some of our top stories. Barring any last-minute change, Nigeria's Minister of Finance, Kemi Adeosun, and the Central Bank of Nigeria's Deputy Governor, Sarah Alade, will lead meetings will be part of a team going on a roadshow in London and the United States before the proposed issue of Nigeria's first Eurobond in over 3 years. The last time Nigeria tapped the Eurobonds market was in July 2013, and as of now has about $1.5 billion of Eurobonds outstanding. According to analysts, yields on Nigeria's $500 million bond due in July 2023 is almost at 7% as at Thursday, February 2nd. Now, international ratings agency Standard & Poor's has given the Eurobond proposed issue a B rating. And coming in next week, more 2016 corporate earnings are expected to hit the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Already we've seen some heavyweights like Forte Oil turning in their reports for 2016, but more are expected to come in next week as more companies have had board meetings and decided and deliberated and submitted to the Nigerian Stock Exchange. So we should have that released next week, or going in most into most of the month of February. We'll be having most of those corporate results coming in. What happens to the most? Well, Jaiz Bank is also expected to list on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Jaiz Bank is listed on the Nasdaq OTC Securities Exchange, so it's moving to join the big boys. By next week, we have that happening. FMDQ OTC Securities Exchange will be signing a memorandum of understanding with S&P Dow Jones Indices, and the Securities and Exchange Commission holds a seminar on budget 2017 in the nation's commercial capital, Lagos. And of course, the National Bureau of Statistics is expected to release the Q4 2016 export activity. So those are some of the items we've got on our radar. You can track that along with us as well. But let's take a look at how some oil and gas stocks that we track here on the program fared yesterday at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. There are about 7 of them that we usually review on the program at this time. So starting with corn oil, yesterday saw investors trading about 200 units on this particular equity that finished at 35 naira 49 kobo. There was no percentage change there. Forte oil was off almost 10%, 9.47% at the end of Thursday's trading session, with over 2.41 million units exchanged by investors. That equity starts today's trade at 61 naira 7 kobo. And there was a marginal gain on Mobil, about 36 basis points to birth at 275 naira 99 kobo. And we also saw positive movement on Owando. That rose 4.82% to finish at 4 naira 78 kobo, beg your pardon, with a volume of 1,307,057 units exchanged by investors. And same investors booked on Total, which dropped 3.60% to finish at 268 naira. So coming in, of course, from yesterday, they also contributed to the drop in the oil and gas index, which finished at minus 1.6%. Year to date is at minus 7.9, with dividend yield at 2.1%.